Hi, this is Nick Forster. Every week on the air, we recognize someone our listeners have told us about, folks who are stepping up in their own communities or beyond and making a positive impact. We do this not only to share these inspiring stories with listeners like you, but to remind us that so often, even in the face of big problems, little steps can lead to great results. It's the eChievement Award, and here's Helen to tell you about this week's winner.
She and several friends and acquaintances came together to co-found a nonprofit organization called Louisiana Environmental Action Network, or LEAN. Marylee remains the driving force behind this effort to educate, empower, support, and advocate for the people of Louisiana. Here to tell us more is our eChievement Award winner of the week, Marylee Orr of Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Well, thank you for being with us. And it sounds like going in this direction was not what you had imagined doing with your life.
Not at all.
Yeah.
I actually loved art and music, and I loved everything in my community, but my son was born with a lung disease, and I brought him home into an area that was non-attainment 17 times that year, which means it was unhealthy to breathe, and there's nothing like a mother's instinct to protect their child. And also, my first son was born in Lafayette.
Oh, wow.
So I love this eTown.
So let me just ask you about, as a mother, when that happens, when you've got a situation like that where you've got a child who's not healthy and you've got an environment around where you live that's not supportive of his healing, how do you think about where to go for fixing it? Because, of course, your instinct is you want to fix it.
Well, I did think that the government was going to fix it, or I thought industry was going to fix it, but then I remembered the basic civic lesson that we are the government and we have to be part of the solution. So
right.
I formed, thank you. I formed Mothers Against Air Pollution, and 5 of us walked for 5 days, and we got 3,000 signatures about a facility that was moving in that wanted to burn PCBs in our neighborhood. And my little son grabbed me and said, "Mom, you're not going to let that happen, are you?"
Oh, wow.
So that was the beginning of a journey. I said I would do this for 6 months, Nick. That's it, 6 months.
Wow. And how long ago was that?
More than 30 years
More
ago.
than 30 years ago. Yeah.
It's a quick or a long 6 months, I don't know.
Now, I could be wrong, but it seems to me, I remember reading somewhere that the state of Louisiana, back in the 30s, I think, had some laws that went on the books that were in support of, developing industry that would provide tax havens for 10 years and a sort of a wink and a nod about regulations and surveillance.
Right. Industrial tax exemptions, what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And 80 years ago, that really applied to chickens and poultry and things like that. It seemed pretty harmless.
Right.
But then it sort of grew into this enormous, some people think, not everyone, sort of a cash cow that invites industry in here and gives them money that takes away from us having good schools, giving to hospitals, good roads. So this governor
because
actually...
they're not paying property taxes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're not paying property taxes. And if you're a small business, you have to pay property taxes. If you improve your business, you don't get a tax break, but they get enormous, like $1 million worth of tax breaks. And we want to make people welcome here, but we don't want to give away Louisiana. You can see how beautiful it is here,
right.
And we want to preserve it. So.
Yeah. So tell us about the kind of things that LEAN is up to as an organization.
Well, you just named one of them. We're working along the Mississippi River corridor with several communities. We work with a lot of low-income minority communities. We help people find their voices, air issues, land issues, and actually we're a bottoms-up organization, meaning that the issue comes from you. So you might call me up and say, I have a problem, can you help me? And we empower you through information and how to utilize the government, how to become part of the government, how to make change. It's pretty exciting.
And tell our folks what environmental justice means.
Environmental justice means that you have quality of life where you work, where you play, where you pray, where you live, and it's equal. And I didn't realize this. Actually, they coined environmental justice after I got into the movement. The academics did. It meant that a lot of low-income minority, poor people were more likely to live on the fence line of these communities. So they're the people bearing the burden for a lot of the products that are sent other places.
And so you go into those communities, and in a lot of cases, I expect you have to really educate people almost from scratch about what's going on in their own neighborhoods.
Wow, that's a mouthful. We do, because we've even worked with people who can't read or write, all the way up to people who are PhDs. So, but they share one thing in common. They want to have quality of life. They want to leave this earth a little bit better for their families, for themselves. It's a beautiful thing. And it's wonderful to see a leader emerge from groups like that.
Yeah. So you educate and you organize and you help them remember that democracy works from the ground up.
Yes.
And so do you provide ongoing support or technical support, or how do you encourage this energy to kind of keep going?
We do it in many ways. And by the way, we just had a victory with a community that we've been working with for 30 years. How about that for hanging in there?
Wow. That's patience.
That is
Right.
patience or craziness,
Wow.
I don't know which.
Yeah.
But we also worked on air quality issues because that was one of my loves when I started out. And we actually worked on that issue more than 12 years and got a big victory at the Supreme Court twice. So it all depends on the issue and what tool we need to make things better. But the bottom line is quality of life and better. And our issue is about empowerment and people. Because before, let's go back in eTown history, more than 30 years ago, you had conservation issues, and then environmental issues were sort of separate. And I think people are beginning to realize we're really not separate at all.
Right.
So.
Well, and we're not unaware of the fact that this has been an oil and gas community, and petrochemicals have been a big part of the sort of economic engine of this part of the country for a long time. And we're at this funny little tipping point right now where some of the old sources of energy really don't make either economic sense or environmental sense anymore. So this shift is, in some ways, going to come about eventually anyway. But organizations like yours, I suspect, can point out certainly the egregious problems, the things that are really hurting people and hurting kids, and try to work with grassroots organizations to try to keep that from happening.
Right. 30 years ago, believe it or not, there wasn't a voice at the table. There was government and industry talking to themselves exclusively. You had like Mid-Continent Oil and Gas, which does a great job for their folks. You had the chemical industry, which does a great job. But you had no one speaking for the people. And lean became that voice. And at first it was kind of uncomfortable because that shift of balance, power was changed. But it became a three-legged stool, so it's more even. And we've gone from sort of a little confrontational, I would say at the beginning, way back in the 80s, back in the olden days, before some of these people were born probably, to having industry actually come to our office and say, look, we're going to do this permit. We want to do it right. We want you to hear about it from us. I had lunch with a plant manager last year. So I think one thing, you can't stereotype environmentalists anymore. Used to be, and I love these people. I say yogurt, backpacking, crunchy kind of people. I love them, but I'm not one of them, as you can see. And that's okay, because that's what it's supposed to be. We're a big umbrella for moms and dads and plant workers and industry and people who just want to see that this quality of life and this beautiful music continues on in a wonderful environment.
Was there ever a time, because you mentioned early on that it was more confrontational, was there ever a time where you felt like you were either in danger or you were being ostracized for the work you were doing, and enough to where you thought about, boy, maybe it's not worth it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yes. Our chemist is a MacArthur Award winner. I have to put that in there.
Right.
And she actually was shot at in her office. And at the beginning, I didn't take my children with me anywhere I went because I had labor union buddies. It was back when they had labor unions. And they would say, you shouldn't go to that meeting by yourself because they're telling these people not the truth. They're saying that this lady wants to close the industry down, which is not true. We just want you to be a good neighbor. We want just like basic kindergarten rules, like clean up when you make a mess.
Right.
Don't make your mess roll over into my yard.
Right.
Stuff like that.
Take a nap every
It
afternoon.
took a really long time. And I was called some really awful names that we can't put on the radio.
I bet you were.
Yeah, but that's okay. I'm still here, and I love what I do.
Well, I have to tell you, as we were traveling around on a boat today on the Vermilion and up this Bayou Tortue and other places, it was really surprising to see. We passed a tannery that's shut down that used to be a big polluter into the Vermilion. We passed areas that had clearly been cleaned up, that had been filled with garbage, and these little pockets of the river that. So you're not alone. There's a lot of people who love this part of Louisiana, love the landscape, love the indigenous flora and fauna, and are fighting for it and making sure that it stays clean. So it's an incredible shift that's happening in the midst of the battle that is ongoing.
Yes, but it's wonderful. We ask people to join us in that battle, but we have come a long way, baby. I will say what my member said. I was in St. Gabriel the other night in a small community, predominantly African American, and a gentleman said, just without me asking him. He said, 30 years ago before lean, I would drive down this highway and there was smog and it was horrible and it was terrible. And now it's so much better. And it's so much better because of the work lean has done. And to me, that's the legacy that I want to leave. Oh, can I make one exciting announcement when it's appropriate?
Yeah, as long as it's not too exciting.
Okay. All right. I'll try to back off.
All right. No, go ahead, of course.
We're going to start a museum, an environmental justice museum, because the repository of so many memories and stories of people who didn't live long enough to die young, or to live old to die young. The song that we just
sang,
that which was so moving to me. And so we want these memories. We have photographs and videos from 30 years ago that no one else has. So we want to capture that. So when I'm not here anymore, or some of us are not here anymore, we can still remember our history, because you've got to learn from where you've been to be able to go where you want to go.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, that sounds great. And where is the museum going to be?
Museum's going to be in Baton Rouge, even though my
Rouge.
son was born in Lafayette.
Yeah.
I live in Baton Rouge,
Yeah.
and I'm a New Orleans lady.
Yeah.
So how about that?
That's good. You get your bases covered. Well, the museum is also going to be an opportunity for you to sort of highlight some of your successes.
Correct.
And disprove some of the myths. You okay over there?
Yeah. And mostly it's a celebration, too, of how far we've come. And also, it's an honoring of people's lives who are not here anymore. A lot of the people I work with died pretty young.
Right.
And so it's a real privilege to be able to have their voice continue.
Well, the other thing is you haven't killed industry. You know,
No.
you haven't. Your efforts have not run in direct opposition to a successful
We
economy.
don't want to kill industry either. That myth is like crazy. Please,
Yeah,
I want
it's
like
crazy.
myth, fact.
Right.
Myth is that you want to stop all industry.
Yeah.
Fact is we don't. We just want you to be a good neighbor. We just want you to follow the laws. It seems pretty basic to me.
Yeah, it seems
If you
pretty
don't,
basic to
though,
me.
we'll be watching.
Well, how many people? I know this has been going on for a long time. How many people are involved now?
Well, we have about 10 people on our board. We're a small SWAT team of staff of around 5, and we have...
Five people on staff.
Yeah, they call us a SWAT team, the other
Wow.
environmental people, because we go in
So
when
efficient.
nobody else will go in.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure what that means, Nick.
Yeah.
That we're not too bright.
Well,
But effective
you're
nonetheless.
courageous.
That's
Yeah.
kind of you
You're
to
courageous.
say. It's kind of you to say. Here,
Well-
they'd have another word, I think, here in Lafayette, but we won't go into that.
But you get a lot of volunteers.
We do. We have hundreds of volunteers,
Yeah.
and we've helped tens of thousands of people over 30 years. It's quite amazing. I can't think about it myself.
Incredible.
It's like, whoo.
Incredible. And
They're
you
all
thought
in
it
my
was
heart.
something you were going to do just for a little while.
6 months, that's it.
Yeah.
I'm going to go back to doing something else. I want to do, music, art, beautiful
Yeah.
things like that. But I wasn't called to do that. This is what I'm supposed to do. So I get to listen to wonderful music, though.
Listen, we're all so proud of you. Marylee Orr is the winner of this week's eChievement Award. Co-founder of Lean back in 1986, positively impacting this part of the country, affecting tens of thousands of people for the better. She's a champion for all of you. Marylee Orr, the winner of this week's eChievement Award. The organization, Lean.
Oh, we watch you slip away again. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Oh, we'll watch you slip away each and every.
Hi, this is Nick Forster from eTown. If you want to stay up to date with all the performances, interviews, and behind-the-scenes footage, click the subscribe button. Thanks.